Right, I've just consolidated all the frames that I think are ready for extraction, and I put them in these two top supers. The two supers on the bottom of the hive are not full yet, so there's still time for the bees to fill them up. And I'm going to put a clearer board on top of the empty supers. This is a rhombus board. The bees go through the hole in the top and they come out through these holes at the end and they can't find their way back. So I put this on here with the rhombus facing downwards, and then I put the two supers which are full on top. They are very heavy. Just by the way, sometimes you'll find a frame which is partly capped, like this one. It's not all capped. Some of it is. Some of it is liquid honey. You can do a quick test to see whether it's ready for extraction. It needs to be less than 20% moisture. And one way to find out is just to shake it over the hive both ways. If the nectar doesn't come out, then you can say that it's less than 20% moisture and therefore it's ready for extraction. So I'll put that one back. And this is the other super, which is full. There we are. Now I put everything back together, and if I come back 12 hours later, sometimes you'll get away with even less. If you come back 12 hours later, you'll find that all the bees that were in these top supers have gone down into here, and it's easy to take the honey off. Another way you can do it is using quarter bee escapes, which are these gadgets. There's a quarter bee escape. The idea of these, they've got a couple of nylon or steel veins in them, and you see those. Those allow the bees to go through, but again they won't get back. So you make sure that the little leaves or veins are working all right. Okay, and you put that in the slots in the crown board. And put the other one. And just check this one as well. Make sure there's nothing sticking in the veins. Looks all right. Stick that in there. Make sure when you do this you put the whole thing the right way around with the holes on the top for the bees to go through. I'm not going to use that one just now. Put it down there. Right, as you can hopefully see, this super has no bees in it, so the clearer board has worked. If you've only got one super, or maybe just a few frames that you want to extract, you can do it without bothering with clearer boards and bee escapes. If you take the super full of bees about 10 yards away from the hives, then you take each frame out, brush the bees off on both sides with a bee brush. The bees will fly back to the hive. Maybe a bit noisy at times, but they will fly back. And then you put the brushed frame into an empty super and go through all the frames and do this. You may have to repeat it more than once, but in the end you will end up with a super clear of bees. This is a simple uncapping tank. You can buy them, but this is a fairly simple one that I made myself. Consists of a plastic container, a mesh along the bottom to hold the cappings when you cut them off, and a piece of timber across the top to support the frames when you decap them. So I've taken the frame out of the warming cabinet. I then place it on top of the bar across the tank like so. There's a notch to hold the frame in place, and I get my knife and I carefully cut the cappings off. I prefer to cut upwards, some people prefer to go downwards. Try not to take too much wax and honey off. It falls into the cage at the bottom, like so. And if there's any little bits which are not uncapped, you can just go over them with a point of the knife like so, and then you turn it round and do the same thing on the other side. Leaning it forward like this allows the cappings to fall off cleanly into the bottom of the tank. And that frame is now ready for extraction. Okay. Right, I'm doing the same thing now with this decapping tool. This works very well if you've got nice, clean, even frames. Doesn't work so well, I find, on old frames which are a bit uneven. But you do tend to lose less of the cappings if you use one of these. Okay. Okay, I've placed the 4 frames inside the extractor. They have to be balanced, so if you get a very heavy frame on one side, you need to put a very heavy frame on the other side, so that when you turn the handle the whole thing is balanced. Otherwise it'll vibrate like mad. Right, so I'm going to start turning. Normally I would have the safety covers on, but so you can see what's happening, I've got the safety covers off. As I rotate it, the honey is thrown out onto the sides of the drum. Just turn it slowly for a few turns on one side, and then you take the frames out and turn them around so the other side is exposed. Turn it slowly for a few minutes. If you do it too fast all at the same time, you can actually break the combs because of centrifugal force. So a slow turn for a few turns gets most of the honey out. Turn it over, do the same thing, and then you can speed it up. So I'm going to turn the frames over now. Right, so the extractor is now got quite a bit of honey in the bottom, and it's time to start taking it out. So I use this double sieve, which you can see here. There is a coarse sieve on top and a finer one underneath, and I simply open the tap and let the honey pour out. Any bits of wax or bits of bees will collect first of all in the top strainer and then in the strainer underneath, and you'll end up in the honey bucket with pretty clean honey. The strainers do have to be cleaned quite frequently because they get clogged up, and it's a good idea to have two sets of strainers so that you can be cleaning one while the honey is running through the other one if you're doing any scale of extraction. So honey collects in the bottom of the decapping tank. You can take the mesh off and then filter that honey through the double strainer in the same way as the rest of the honey, so you're not wasting anything. And the cappings which are left on top of the mesh, those can be washed and then used, melted down and made into candles or polishes or wax wraps or whatever you want to do with it. Okay, so there's about 30 pounds, 12 kilos of honey in this honey bucket. It's pretty clean. There'll be a few little bits in it, but you could use it yourself or sell it to friends like this. If you want it even cleaner, you could transfer it into a honey bucket, a deeper bucket which has a tap at the bottom. Leave it for a couple of days in a warm place or in your warming cabinet, and any bits will float to the top, and by opening the top tap at the bottom of the bucket you'll get nice clean honey out of the bottom. So one thing I need to do with this is to check the water content. So this is a hygrometer. I take a little drop of honey, put it on the glass, close the top down, look through, and it says 19% water, which is okay. It's a little bit high. It should be between 15 and 20% water. Anything over 20% is likely to start fermenting, so it needs to be under 20%. But this will do. So all I do now is I get the lid, put it on, seal this until I want to use it, mark on top what it is, where it came from, and that's your first 30 pounds of honey extracted. It's important to keep doors and windows closed. I've got the door open at the moment just for the light in the garage, but you'll see I've put a board on top of the supers. If you're anywhere near bees, you will get bees coming to investigate because of the honey that's present. And if you're close to hives, you could get thousands of bees in your kitchen. So keep all the doors and windows closed, keep everything covered up. Even do it in the evening if you're very close to your own apiary.